Welcome to the SAG-AFTRA Foundation's Conversations at Home program. I'm Jenelle Riley from Variety. Before we're joined by our guest today, I want to let you know that the SAG-AFTRA Foundation is a nonprofit organization that relies entirely on donations to provide emergency assistance and free educational programs to SAG-AFTRA artists. This conversation is made possible thanks to the generosity of our supporters. Over the past year, the foundation has given nearly $7 million in COVID relief to more than 7,000 performers. So if you are a SAG-AFTRA artist and you need help, please ask. And if you can help, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Thank you for your support. And now, without further ado, it is my pleasure to introduce actor Woody Norman and director-writer Mike Mills of Come On, Come On. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
It's so thrilling to have two people, Mike, you've been doing this for a while, and Woody, you've actually been acting for a while, but the world is just discovering you. I would love to know if there was a moment when that you knew you wanted to be a storyteller, that you knew you wanted to make movies, or Woody, you knew that you wanted to be an actor, or maybe you haven't made up your mind yet.
I could see Woody being a director too. Woody, do you want to go first, maybe?
Yeah, thank you. I decided when I was like 5, my auntie was quite a big TV actor in England for a while, so a lot of my family were in it, and I saw that, and I kind of grew up knowing about acting, so I just asked my mum, can I try it? And she said yeah. Then we went to a what's it called, agency, and auditioned for it. We got it, and then yeah.
And how long before you booked your first job?
I have no idea.
I can't remember anything from a week ago, so
I'm saying about a month, but I have no idea.
Wow.
A whole month.
But he really struggled in that month.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
5 years old and not working.
For me, filmmaking came a little late. I was like in my late 20s, and I went to art school, and filmmaking seemed like very like going to the moon or just something, very far away, very difficult. And then like Jim Jarmusch films kind of like brought it closer, and we lived in the same neighborhood in East Village, and I would see him around, and I was very unemployed and felt like I was in an unmade Jim Jarmusch movie. And it just kind of made it like, okay, if I can wait in the same coffee line as him, maybe I could be a director. And I saw, so his films made it accessible, and Errol Morris's Thin Blue Line just like completely spoke to me because I came from graphic design and stuff like that. And so it, those two things kind of like connected in one summer where I was like, I have to try this.
You had never considered being a filmmaker before that?
Not really. I went to art school and was trying to find some way to get out of the rarefied world of art, right? So I got into graphic design because that's like a little bit more public sphere, but I kind of wanted more, didn't know what it was. And I was like 26, 27 when that summer happened.
Did you ever talk to Jim Jarmusch when you would run into him, or were just admired from afar?
Yeah, admire from a distance, definitely. Yeah, I met him when I did Beginners at the Gotham Awards, and it was like, meeting Keith Richards or something. I was so starstruck, I could not really have a conversation.
You didn't talk to him at all?
No, I shook his hand, but I was like, I just didn't have words. I was completely, I was nervous.
That's so cool. Well, I want to start at the beginning with Come On, Come On, because this movie combines so many of my favorite things. It's got Joaquin Phoenix and NPR and young actors. For Mike, what was sort of the initial inspiration or spark for this film? I know it can begin with a character or a plot point or sometimes just an image.
Well, for me, it was my kid and being a parent and the way a kid changes your world and your heart and your relationship to the bigger world, not just like your intimate family, but like you're so much more deeply tied to like what's going on in the big world. And your kid knows all the stuff about you that you've tried to hide for years and shows them to you on a regular basis. And it's actually like quite an amazing growing gift. So I wanted to somehow write about that or somehow capture that feeling and just respect towards kids or like try and think as adults, there's so many ways that we're trained to not really kind of like just sit and be with kids as equals, right? And I find that like really fun and really powerful. And I was trying to make a film that had that somehow.
I mean, obviously, this film doesn't work without the right Johnny and Jesse. Was Joaquin Phoenix the person who first got involved with the film before you cast Woody?
Yeah, me and Joaquin have been sort of dating for months before got to the part of like, who is Jesse going to be? Who could possibly do this? And me and Joaquin had this thing that we would say is like, well, this has all been fun, meeting each other and developing a relationship, but this film's never going to happen because you're never going to find that kid. And then we really were worried and had this kind of agreement between each other. Like, if it isn't like someone we just really feel like we're willing to bet all our chips on, we just shouldn't do it, because it's, how often do you get to make a movie kind of about your own kid? And it just seemed like there's too much at risk.
All right. So Woody, where did they find you from your point of view? Do you get sent a script? Do you get sides? You find out about an audition? What did you know about the project?
Well, the first thing that we heard about it is when we got a few scenes to do for a self-tape. And then we did the self-tape. And we did a few self-tapes over the course of like a few months. And then we got an email saying that we could fly over to do kind of an audition to LA with Joaquin. That was really cool to do. And it was like, we got along very well. I was kind of saying audition quite lightly, like quite loose, because it was like that, but I was also to see if me and Joaquin were like okay around each other. But he was really nice, and he is really nice. And then the next day we got to do another one. And that went really well. And then I remember doing one, I don't know if that's when we were in LA filming or when we were doing the chemistry tests with Gabby. That was fun as well. But after we did the auditions with Joaquin, we flew back to England. And it was like 4 months until we heard anything.
Really?
And then we heard, I was in Scotland, I was in Scotland, we were having dinner. And then in the middle of dinner, we just got a text saying that we got it. We were at dinner, couldn't really be very loud.
Was the text from like your people, or was it from Mike?
It was from my agent.
Wow, that's so cool. At what point did you know Joaquin Phoenix was in the movie? Did you know that when you were even doing the original audition with the sides?
I never really thought, when I met him for the audition, I just kind of thought, oh, he's doing it. It never really crossed my mind that he might not be.
I mean, did you know who he was?
Yeah, but I hadn't seen him in much. I might have seen Brother Bear when I was young, but
oh yeah.
After filming, I watched The Joker like as soon as we stopped filming, because my mum didn't let me watch any because she thought I'd be starstruck. So she kept me away from anything.
I didn't watch it either because I thought I'd be too starstruck to direct him. So I still haven't seen it.
You still haven't seen it?
No, it's like another lover I don't need to know about.
So, Mike, I have to ask from your perspective, you were worried about being able to find this young actor to pull off this role. How hard of a search was it? And at what point did you find Woody?
That was the crazy thing. We were prepared for it to be a very long search and set aside a lot of money and time for that. And Woody came in the very first link, and of a bunch of kids. And I was like, who's that? And did the trip of like, oh my God, Woody's British and lives in London. Because he auditioned with his American accent was completely convincing. Had no idea. I don't remember it taking 4 months. I know it took a long time, but did it really take 4 months from when you came? I mean, it took 4 months till when we were shooting.
That's just the number I came up with. It was a long time. 4 months sounded right.
It did take a while. So no, I mean, from the very first time I saw Woody, he really stood out. And we saw a lot of kids, and Woody really stood out. And Woody just has like an intelligence and like a deep rudder to him, as you can see. And he's just very good at acting. Like you just believe him when he's saying things. And that's all from a distance, right? That's what I'm seeing on the screen. And then we bring Woody here, and it is quite a thing to shove him in a room with the Joker and see what happens. And Joaquin's really funny. Joaquin's in his pajamas, by the way, during this audition. He shows up in his pajamas. And he's very loving and such a big-hearted, sweet person who loves other actors, but also is like very unpredictable, wild creature. You just don't really know what Joaquin's ever going to do next in a way that I love. So it can be kind of intimidating. And I think maybe Woody like naturally was a little, how do I deal with this creature at the beginning? But very quickly, and definitely by the second day, I felt like they found a lot of their energetic combining that you see in the film. They're joking and their way with each other, like their relationship. There's seeds of it in that very first audition.
I'm sorry to belabor this, but I have to get a visual here. When you say Joaquin showed up in his pajamas, is it like, flannel? Does it have little cupcakes on it?
Long flannel, long pants, like, PJ bottoms. Maybe his Converse and maybe a t-shirt, like a black t-shirt, probably. Yeah. But no, his pajama bottoms. He wears them in the movie too.
Well, I was going to say, I wondered if this was a character choice he made.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like to draw on people's real stuff.
And Woody, for you, was there a point where you read the whole script and, what did you sort of think of your character and the story?
Yeah. We read the script a couple of times and we loved it. And I thought Jesse was quite interesting. I thought the orphan scenes were quite funny and also quite weird. And I didn't know, with a lot of the scenes, I didn't know how I was going to do it. I was quite scared of like doing the, what's it called? I forgot the orphan scenes. I thought, am I going to I thought I was kind of going to do it too sad. But I think it turned out fine.
And obviously you're British. Have you always had a good American accent, or is that something you had to work on? Is there a coach you used, or how did you get it so right?
A few years, we didn't even know about Come On when we started having a vocal coach. It was 3 years beforehand. We had a vocal coach for another job that we didn't get. She was lovely. She was really good. And it was very hard at the beginning. Then it kind of gets, once you get used to the hard things like the R's and stuff like that, it gets easier.
But then on set, Woody didn't have, I've worked with a number of actors who've done American accent, and they have the coach, and the coach is always helping them right before the take. Woody didn't have any coach on set and didn't do any other exercises. So really had developed such a facility with it. And there is a fair amount of improvising in the movie, and Woody can just launch in at any moment. But it's not like a method thing, right, Woody? I feel like every time we cut, you go back to your British accent. So just a real facility that's mind-boggling.
I actually want to ask about the improvisation because, Mike, you are known for your amazing scripts. Beginners is one of my favorite scripts of all time. Do you write in places where people can improvise, or do you just let your actors know that, they can do a take where they're free to sort of take off?
There's a little bit of both. Sometimes where something is people come into a room, I'll say improv hellos and goodbyes or whatever like that, but I'll write that. And the script, I did spend a lot of time writing a script and doing my best to get all the dialogue as good as it can be. But then I do want to invite the actor to, and especially Woody, because it's it's a difference, right? Woody's was 10, right? And I'm in my 50s. So I want to take advantage or include Woody's full consciousness or Woody's being, right? And so I would definitely invite them to say it in their own words if that felt better, or to play, right? And if someone else is playing, to play along, right? And to keep this ball alive of you don't know exactly what's going to happen next. I feel it just makes for a much more alive texture.
Woody, did you have much experience with improvising?
No. I went to, I did a few drama clubs a few times. We might have done some improv in there, but I've never really done it. So Come On was the first time I proper did it.
Wow.
I remember, and that very first edition, where do you remember we started doing something and Joaquin had sides, but it was loosely following them. And Woody very nicely, very politely said, I think you missed a word, and because you were very dutifully following all my words. And we both were like, okay, you don't, this is a different game. It's freer than that.
I love that. Obviously so much of the relationship, so much of the movie hinges on the relationship between these two characters. Woody, what was it like working with Joaquin Phoenix? You got to kind of get to know him before shooting, I believe. I feel like you told me you went to Universal Studios. Did I make that up?
Yes, we did, but not with him. And he was really angry that he didn't get to come. He was like, why didn't you invite me? Not in like a very more jokingly, but he went without us after we went without him. Me and my mum, we wanted to just go together.
So funny.
And ride that we both hated. I liked it after. There's a Harry Potter ride that is like on a track and you go through stuff and you kind of go upside down. Mum hated it. She was like, afterwards, I'm never doing that again. We're going home. I was like, we're going to do a few more because we didn't do the whole thing. And she was like, oh my God, that was so bad. I thought it was fun after I did it.
I know that I just did that ride for the first time ever for my birthday last year. I know the one you're talking about, and it gets a little scary when they put you on your back. And then we got stuck on our backs. Yeah.
So after the audition that we did, Joaquin and Gabby had this idea that they should meet for the very first time when Joaquin walks through that door to her home. And they both said it to me independently. So I was like, okay, the film gods have spoken. Let's do that. So Woody didn't see Joaquin again until that scene. And we did some prep with Woody and Scoot and Woody and Gabby. And Joaquin did prep with Molly Webster. But the three of them hadn't been in the same room together until that scene happened.
Wow. I'm actually surprised to hear Gabby Hoffman is so wonderful in this. And Woody, you and she didn't have any kind of a chemistry read?
No, there's no audition with the two of them, but we did do prep together.
Wow. Yeah. How did you know it would work?
Wait, no, you go.
Most of your casting, you don't get to like cast the two people together, you have to make some sort of guess or just have a feeling. And Gabby's a mom of two and just such an awesome actress. And I felt so close to her, and I showed her Woody's audition, because we're teammates by that part. And I had no doubt, really.
I also want to talk, since we're talking about the cast, you have these, I don't know if I should call them actors or not, but they're these young people in the film who play the interview subjects. Was that scripted, and how did you go about finding them?
Well, SAG may disagree with this, but they're not actors. They're not actors, and those were just non-scripted real interviews that Joaquin and Molly did. And Kari Pitkin, who's an amazing radio producer who did Radio Rookies and worked at WNYC, went ahead of us and found really amazing schools and places that were like willing to help us find those kids.
Wow. How did they react when, Joaquin Phoenix was interviewing them? Did any of them know who he was? Or I guess he doesn't really make many PG movies.
No, well, it's mid-Joker publicity. So a lot of people are like, oh, it's a joke. They definitely knew who he was. And Joaquin's very good at just redirecting their attention. Like, okay, we can talk about Joker later. I'm really interested in why is your room like this? Or what's your mom feel about this? Or how do you feel about your house or whatever? And his energy is so real. You just respond to that.
Woody, were you aware that your character was, I don't know if it was based on or inspired by Mike's son?
I think I found out halfway through the shoot. Or when I met Hopper, I think Mike told my mum. I think that's what happened. I think I didn't know at the beginning, but then when I was told, it was kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
It's probably good you didn't know. I think that might have been a little intimidating.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't ever want to do Hopper dirty because Hopper's really nice.
Yeah. So you didn't study him or try to emulate him in any way, I presume.
No, I met him like 3 times, and each time it was like I would always forget that I was like kind of being him. But I think, yeah, I think it was fine.
My movies have it more than a few times. Someone's playing someone based on someone in real life. And my first agreement, my first rule is always like, you're the character. Like you're the person, even more than me, the writer director. If it doesn't feel right to you, it's not in the movie. You know what I mean? And it has to be like, you have to be co-author, co-creator, and the full owner of this character.
Has your son seen the film? Does he have an opinion?
My kid pronouns are they, them. They're
so
not
sorry.
a binary person. No problem. They haven't seen the movie, and they're totally interested and they're totally not interested. You know, they're 9, they have their whole life. They much rather watch Minecraft right now. And that's kind of as it should be. Like I hope someday they watch it, but maybe they won't. And maybe that's great. Maybe that's the best thing. They know I love them and I'm fascinated by them and adore them. They don't need my movie to know more about us.
I love that kids keep us humble. They are not impressed by us. And I think that's wonderful.
My kid really wanted to watch French Dispatch. Could not wait till we got the screener. Was so excited for that. That's a real filmmaker. Wes Anderson's a real deal. I don't know what I'm doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, being that they are the child of storytellers, maybe this hasn't come up yet, but even for you, do you ever worry that things you say or do might end up in someone else's story?
I'm sure that's my karma, right? That's got to happen.
I don't have like a good way to word this other than I want to talk about the shooting choices you made, beginning with the black and white, because it's so beautifully shot. And there's really no way to ask this other than, can you tell me why black and white?
I've heard Woody answer this question, and he usually has a better answer than I do.
All right, Woody, go for it.
Do you have it in your head, Woody?
I think it's just because like it puts more emphasis on what's happening than rather the background. And it kind of makes it almost more simple because you don't have to worry about what colors are there because there is no colors. There's only like 2. But then it also makes it kind of more vibrant because when you see colors, it's kind of like, oh, there's a color.
Mm-hmm.
It makes it somehow both more dreamlike, but more real. I don't know if
I think black and white is a real interesting, weird trick to black and white where it's not reality, it's about reality. So it's like made this special space where things can be a little more flexible. Your contract with reality is like a little bit bigger. And I wanted to be kind of part fable, part documentary.
Oh, I love that. So for each of you, what ended up being the most challenging part of making the film? If there was, a specific scene that you struggled to write, or if there was a day on set, Woody, where, a lot of times actors read a script and they know that there's that one day that they're both looking forward to and maybe dreading a little bit. What was that day for you?
I think the, what scene was it? I know what you're talking about, and I know there's a scene.
There's the pharmacy scene I thought was interesting day.
That's the one. That is the one that I was dreading to do because I knew I had to shout. And up to then I hated shouting and I still kind of do. But I've gotten better at kind of faking it.
Oh, you didn't want to shout at Joaquin, correct?
No, I didn't want to.
And the first take where he really, me and Joaquin had to really encourage or give Woody a lot of permission. I think it's partly just Britishness and Woody being a very, well brought up young person. And me and Joaquin were like, really lay into it, go for it. And Woody did, and it was really good. It's like really powerful. It's like take 2 or something. It's like, bam. And he runs off and then he ran back to like make sure Joaquin was okay, which was so kind and sweet.
That is so British. You probably came right back and apologized.
But Joaquin and I have talked about this a bunch. It was kind of a magical thing to see because he kind of, I think, I don't want to speak for Woody, but we felt like Woody expanding or like, you know, like finding this big breadth of intense stuff in him that he can really play with. And it was like really kind of magical to be around.
And what about
those scenes where Woody could cry or does cry? And do you remember Woody, like, I think maybe we've talked about this. There's like Gabby's saying goodbye and like kissing him, and Woody's like crying in there, and Gabby turns to me like, oh my God, he's crying. You know, we've traumatized him. And then Woody pops up, is like, no, I'm good. Like, and Vonda, who's Woody's mom, who's a big part of our filmmaking family and the whole process. I remember would often tell me like, Woody loves a good, hearty, you know, intense scene like that. And I don't know where you got that from, Woody, or how you cry for real, but in a way that you can manage that doesn't like totally overwhelm you, it seems like.
And Mike, for you, what was your most challenging day?
Trying to get Joaquin Phoenix to say yes to be in this movie. It was a long day. It took about 6 months. Really? I deserve an Oscar just for that, because it was like, that was the hardest thing that's ever happened to me times 10. That was the most challenging, most tricky, most like took all my therapy skills, took everything I had.
What do you think finally sealed the deal?
It was a long, slow, iterative process. There wasn't a ceiling. Meeting Woody and showing Joaquin Woody's tape, because Joaquin, I don't think you remember this, Woody. You're like, so you're going to be in this movie. You said something like that to Joaquin, and Joaquin said, well, we'll see. Who knows? You're like, in a funny way. And Joaquin and I, by that point, we're pretty good friends, and I got his sense of humor, and he wasn't torturing me. But it's just, you know, his process is an intense thing, I think Woody was a big, huge part of it, that really, really, really cementing it, you know, not just playing around, but like, okay, this is happening.
So he hadn't formally committed by the time you were auditioning Woody?
I mean, did Joaquin ever formally commit? No, he hadn't.
Well, I'm so glad it worked out. And because we do have so many actors watching us, I would just love to know if there's anything you would want them to know, you know, if they're fortunate enough to audition for you or meet with you. Is there anything you want them to know coming into that room?
I feel like, again, Woody can answer this probably better than I can. What do you think? What do you think is important when you're auditioning in my kind of movie?
What I think is when you're going like to wait to audition, don't think about anything. Don't think about if you're going to get your lines wrong. If you need to, read your lines, but if you don't. Like, if you know your lines, don't do them again because you know your lines. And if you're stressed out about it, do it. Just don't, like, kind of tell your brain to shush. I think that's the best advice I have for auditioning.
That's great advice. I wish I knew how to do that better.
The thing that stuck out to me about Woody's, even his first self-tapes, were it's hard to describe, but he wasn't just performing for the camera. He wasn't just like, bing, here I am. He was in his own space and kind of trusted that we would come find him, like, you know, get our attention on him. And I think especially in kid actors, like so many kid actors are kind of taught to like present, you know. And then that showed up even more in the auditions we did here. I mean, Joaquin really talked about that a lot. It's like obviously Woody knows the camera's right there, and really Woody really is such a super smart person that like gets the whole game, you know. Like Woody's made some films, and I could really honestly see Woody becoming a filmmaker, like a director or actor too. So Woody obviously knows the camera's there, knows the whole thing. It's not like some ingenue situation. But Woody's able to just like be in that world, like really deeply, and not care about the camera, or even sort of me in a way, which is actually great and very important to like believe in what you're doing so much that you're just following your instincts.
Well, I want to see Woody direct a movie, and I want him to cast you, Mike.
Yeah, cool. Let's do it, Woody. I'll be a child. I'll become a child for it.
Well, again, congratulations. It's such a beautiful movie. And I want to thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your experiences with your fellow artists. Thank you so, so much for joining us.